Think about social media sites like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, etc. Your profile serves as a public version of yourself in a way that is often deeply personal. It's the public facade that you want to showcase to other people online. But then on the other hand, profiles for services like Netflix or Hulu, they're less publicly visible and they serve more for your own personal usage. And it's actually really important to understand what is the value of the profile page and what is that going to provide a user. You know, not everyone's going to upload a photo of themselves for an app that doesn't really have like social features. So there's really no benefit for me to upload an image of myself for my Hulu account because I really just use that to watch TV. I also might be skeptical to provide my phone number for my profile if I don't know how that number is going to be used. So it's really important to know the context for the profile that you're designing. From a general perspective, a good rule of thumb to think about profile pages is that they are publicly visible, that other people online are going to see them, as opposed to settings pages, which are more for personal information like sensitive account details, privacy, notifications, things that personally affect you and you alone. So there's a good distinction to draw between public and private when you're designing profiles versus settings pages. So let's take a look at some profile examples and dive in. This first example that we're going to look at is an old iPhone app that I designed. It's called Rivalry. And I don't know if you remember that app called Yo, but it's really similar to that, where you basically log in, you pick your team. Once you pick your team, all you basically do is you connect with your friends and you tap on one of your friends' teams and you send them a call out. So if I am a Georgia Bulldog, I might tap my Florida Gators friend, and it would basically just send them a message and an audio cue that would say, "Go Dogs." And then I would get a score. And then they tap me back and it would say, "Go Gators," and they would get a score. It's back and forth, back and forth. Kind of not the most sophisticated app, but this is what it looks like. I want to point out though that the profile really ends up becoming the settings. Like the settings and the profile were really one and the same. And so I did create a bunch of wireframes for this particular project to start with. And one of the ways that we actually decided to create the entire app was part of the profile. Was when you first launched the app, you were going to pick your team and you could scroll through these alphabetically ordered teams. And then as soon as you pick, the app interface is going to change to your team colors. So your profile is really going to affect the entire color scheme of the app. As you can see here, I've chosen red and black because that's the college in Athens, Georgia. So that's what exists. But there's other color schemes that we created, this primary and secondary color scheme. So for example, if you would have chosen Florida, then your color scheme might actually look orange, would be blue, like that. So your entire interface would change based on the profile color that you selected. I know that this is the profile lesson, but I wanted to bring this up because this is also, profile and settings can be quite overlapping. And so this could very easily say profile on this simple app because it's very simple. It's just the team, the email, the username, password, and phone number. And the phone number is optional, but I want to make sure that we call out that the phone number is going to help others find you. So if they allow contacts, then you will be able to kind of find people inside of the app. But it's really like a simple team. There's just 4 bits of information and the team, but also the profile, the thing that you've selected inside of your profile is affecting the entire app. So there's interesting little things that can happen as a result of choosing certain profile items can affect the rest of the app. Okay, so this example, this is the 12 Stone mobile app. This is an app designed for a church. And you can see here that the profile tab was one of the main navigational items, but you could use the rest of the app without signing up for an actual account. But if you get to the profile tab, we are hitting you with the sign up, create account area. Notice that we've got first name, last name, email, and password. Or we have these 2 third-party options to sign up with, but you can see that we're driving people towards this, and this has kind of become secondary. Now, a lot of times you might want people to actually sign up with Twitter or Facebook primarily, and you might make that you might put that on top and you might have this secondary. But on this particular instance, we wanted the first name, last name, email, password, because it kind of tied in with how they were already handling users inside of their system. So I want to also point out, I also designed lots and lots of wireframes for this. And you can see right here, I considered doing just these 3 buttons. So sign up with Twitter, sign up with Facebook, sign up with email. Already have an account, log in. And so each one of these would kind of kick you off into individual sign up. So I took a little bit of liberty when I jumped from this screen here to this screen here. I'm like, you know what? We don't really have to have this completely separate. We could just go ahead and ask for the email information or put these as secondary, because this design is asking for, you're putting the emphasis on signing up with an email. And this design over here, you're almost accentuating all 3 of them equally. And so on this one, I've got these sectioned off with the third party examples are kind of grouped together, whereas the email is kind of put out here. And this is definitely more of the onboarding, but it all contributes to the end user profile. So you can see here, these are the required bits of information for this particular app. And then they hit sign up. And before we're fully signed up, okay, we're asking for phone number. But we're not just asking for phone number. We're saying if you're already in the system, providing your phone number will help keep your info in sync. So they do enter their info in case I'm already registered for some other random event and I've already got my information in the system. I don't want 3 different accounts. So all of a sudden, if we give that phone number, we can hit next. And it's like, oh, actually, based on your information, we found some possible matches. Please select all instances of yourself. And I'm like, okay, there's Douglas, there's DJ Dougie, there's Doug. All of these are actually me. So I'm actually showing now, I'm tapping this because I want to show there's the select, this is the default version, and then this is the active version. And then I'm saying, yep, that's me. And then as soon as I do that, it will let me, kind of go to the next phase. And all of that is, all of the create account information is very tightly tied to the actual profile. So you can see profile here. There are some definite like settings type thing. Some of this information could definitely be put inside of account information under settings, but because this is a slightly simpler app, we made the decision to put all of this stuff under profile, even though only part of this would be public facing. So I know that in general, profile information is public facing and settings information is private. But this example kind of combines those two because there's not that much information. So we've got Matt is the user profile here. We've got the information, the address, the campus. Do I have any linked accounts or not? And then also we have this household, because this was a big part of the app, was keeping tabs on who was in the actual household, and you could add family members to the household. And then note the difference here too between view only profile, and then remember this is actually a tab in the app. So this particular screen's not showing the bottom tab, but this tab bar would be like right in here. So this would be the view. I'm on the profile tab and I tap edit. That's going to put me into edit mode. And all of a sudden I am back in a very, very similar setup as the sign up. You can see first name, last name, email, password, and then first name, last name, email, password. So when you're creating an account, a lot of times you are actually creating that profile information, and we're not actually asking for a profile photo. So in this instance, I'm actually not even showing what a blank avatar would look like. I'm just showing the end state. And then if I edit the profile, then I have these abilities to change the name, change the password, add the phone number, things like that. And then I can cancel and I can save, I can update the address. And then I'm also showing, this is what it looks like. Kind of a, think about a design system. This is what a user profile bit of information is going to look like. And then here's the exact same profile information with another person and a bit more information. But because this is someone in my family, I can actually remove this person from my household. And then again, add family member is really the same layout as my profile. This from my profile is exactly the same. So once you kind of design this profile information, a lot of times you can reuse, you don't always have to do this, but editing the profile can be really similar to creating the account. And if you've defined those patterns up front, it can be really helpful to reuse those in those instances when you need to edit a profile. Okay, here's another example of a profile from the SmartLine app. This is a great example of what it looks like when you have a default user profile versus a customized and updated user profile. Now, if you remember from the onboarding, we collected some information, but some of it was also optional. We have this default call paper when someone is actually calling your second line. So on here, we're making the decision that you can tap this avatar to actually update the user profile. And I'm showing, okay, I'm moving and scaling this user profile. I'm showing what it would look like to take a picture, what it would look like to select from the photo library, what it would look like to even select from the albums inside of your photo library. And then if you wanted to change the background, this one was kind of, we wanted to have some pre-selected backgrounds available so you could choose a new call paper. And we had some of them pre-selected, pre-defined call papers that you could choose from, or you could choose your own from your photo library. And so this just shows two examples of choosing one of the pre-selected ones versus uploading one. And you can't assume that someone's going to upload the nicest logo, the nicest image. So it always works nicely if you can test it with something with a white background and maybe the not best logo in the world. So that's just another example of what you have to keep in mind if someone is going to update their own information. It's always best to show a really nice version that's empty and then another version of what that might look like once they've customized their hours, once they've blocked some numbers, once they've, updated their profile to have that full amount of information. You've got your empty version and then you've got your fully customized version. And then you have all the states in between, choosing a different background, choosing a different photo library, and then even updating some of the information in here. The difference between read-only account setting information, but then editing it and having the ability to go in here and actually change the input fields and redo it and then save it, and then you're back into the read-only state. We're talking about profile here, but there can be some crossover between account settings and the profile. There can be some gray area, especially if the app is not really that large of an app and some of the feature set is a little bit more simplistic. Okay, here's another app called Steady where we have the profile, which is, it has a sign up kind of blocker on the profile because we wanted people to use the app before they created an account. But then once they've signed up, we have all these different options underneath their profile. And again, we're actually kind of mixing in a little bit of settings type information inside of the profile here. We have the photo, we have a custom profile, which I'll come back to. We have linked accounts, notification preferences, and info and password. So this is, an example of when we're mixing a profile and settings kind of information all in the same. I'm showing, we're just using the standard take a picture, choose from camera roll for the avatar. And now I'm showing an avatar in place, but also this custom profile thing. I'm showing this kind of progress bar for the custom profile. This particular piece was very critical for this app. And linked accounts actually refers to bank accounts. So we have bank accounts that are linked, and we also have the blank version of that. So there can be lots of second and third screens that have to do with information, bank account linking, all of that can kind of live under that profile or account settings. Now, this custom profile was pretty interesting on this project because this would actually take you to this survey. This is all stuff to kind of round out your custom profile. And these were some questions that we came up with for this custom profile. And so you can see, this is a lot of information, and not everyone would feel that comfortable sharing all of this information. So that's why we made it optional, but also made it kind of prominent inside of that profile so that you could also go in here and you could always save it and finish later. So every screen had to save and finish later. And if you were to go in and save and finish some of it later, that is how you would end up with that 50% profile completed. So if you went back to custom profile, it would take you back to that flow where we're trying to get that information from you. and it would just put you back in wherever you left off. And so we're actually also incentivizing, linking a bank account so we can give a monetary reward to the person who actually filled out all of this information. Seemingly simple looking profile on the surface. If you just look at this one screen, it's pretty simple, but there's a lot that's happening to kind of complete this profile. And we're tucking a lot of that information under here. And each one of these kind of goes into a vastly different section, but it's all related to that one person. And so you could technically put account settings as if I wanted to, I could say account settings right here. And my information, because none of this would be public facing necessarily. Definitely not the bank account information and definitely none of the personal information. This stuff right here is more account settings, but they're all relatively related. So we chose to consolidate them under profile. Okay, for homework, I want you to continue with your fictitious app concept or website concept, whatever it is that you've been working on. And I want you to design a profile page for it. And there's going to be 3 different variations. One is going to be the bare minimum amount of information. Remember, if we were creating an account and all we grabbed was their name and their email and their password, well, the profile is going to be pretty sparse when they first log in. So let's show an empty user avatar with the ability to add a photo. Maybe you try to add some fun design to like the blank avatar, kind of like Twitter has done with the eggs. They're like baby birds. They haven't hatched yet. They haven't uploaded a photo. There's a little bit of creativity you can have with the empty states. And so I'll add some ideas for more profile information, but the first variation is going to be that bare minimum. Maybe you have their name, maybe you have something else. And it may also make you reconsider what you ask for on the front end when they're creating an account, because you might want to authenticate them as quickly as possible, but you also might want to grab a little bit more information to round out their profile. But again, that's up to you. It's a design decision for your own app. Secondly, show a final version of the same exact profile with their name, their photo, every piece of information that possibly could exist within that app. Make it look like it's been fully completed and that there's nothing left to be added or removed. Like it's kind of in the middle of it's a fully featured profile. It's got the background image, it's got the photo, it's got all the information, whatever goes into that. Just design like a fully robust profile. And then for your third variation, let's design some in-between states. Maybe you design what it looks like while someone is uploading a photo, like accessing the camera roll or accessing the camera. Maybe you throw in some permission requests, depending on if it's an iOS, or some drop downs if it's on the web. Different things that would happen in between an empty profile and a completed profile. Think of those key screens. Maybe you show some active fields, different things where you might have a read-only profile, and then you hit edit, and now you're in an input field version of the same profile. Then you have to hit save, and then it goes back into the other completed version. So those 3 versions, empty, edit mode, and fully complete, and put it in context with your existing navigation. So let's see how it goes, and I can't wait to see what you come up with.